Ms. Palamini, are you on? We'll wait for him and then we'll start in a minute or so. Thank you. Mr. Palomini, are you on now?
Yes, sorry about that. I'm not sure why it wasn't connected. I saw
Thank you.
and got no volume or anything.
You're all good now.
I believe so.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the City Caucus meeting to order for Monday, September the 14th, 2020, to order. We have one public hearing this evening. If the clerk can please read.
Public hearing number 1 regarding flat rate permit fees for purchasers of city-owned houses.
Thank you. We have 16 items for consideration this evening. If the clerk can please read item number 1.
Item number 1 for original consideration, a resolution calling for a public hearing on the 2021 budget.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 2, if the clerk can please read.
Item number 2 for original consideration, a resolution calling for a public hearing on the analysis of impediments to fair housing.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 3, if the clerk can please read.
Item number 3 for original consideration, a resolution in support of funding for the Schenectady City School District.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 4 is being pulled. Item number 5 is also being pulled this evening. Item number 6, if the clerk can please read.
Mr. Mudaveran? Excuse me, Mr. Mudaveran?
Yes.
With regard to items number 4 and 5, it's being pulled from the meeting altogether tonight?
Yes, sir, because we need to address your email and to discuss in committee level, and we'll bring it back out.
Mr. Mudaveran, with all due respect, I believe the proper procedure for this would be to do a motion to table, a second, and a vote.
For what reason? Explain yourself.
Sure, because I don't believe there's anything in the city code or in Robert's Rules of Orders which allows something that's placed on the agenda to be unilaterally pulled without consent of the council to table the matter.
No, absolutely incorrect.
Mr. Kosher is incorrect in that the formal procedure would be, in fact, to table it under Robert's rules, which would require a vote.
We have pulled, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Mudaveran, and again, it's the caucus, we have pulled many items, Mr. Mayor, as you have in your past as council president, and have never done a table. This is a last minute item that's just being told to us by the Corporation Council. And with due respect, the council president has pulled several items without any tabling or motions done. And I invite my colleagues to chime in. Ms. Perazo, can you add to that?
Everybody consents to it. If everybody consents to it, then it just moves in that manner.
Absolutely not. Everybody
Well,
consent to the table.
if I may, the reason it's being pulled because of the email that from Corporation Council and from the Director of Operation, we need to address to be in compliance with the HUD with regards to the CDBG funding. So we want to bring it back to committee so that we can discuss what we need to bring in compliance and address those issues and then bring it back out and vote on it.
Mr. Mudaveran?
Go ahead.
Mr. Mudaveran, I think that the emails we received were clear as to what was needed to happen. I don't see that what more we could discuss in committee. He sent us an email, it laid it out. So bringing it to committee, I'm not sure what further discussion there would be on this. So we had discussions prior to getting that email that we couldn't amend anything until it was approved by HUD. So I don't know, why we keep rehashing this and kicking it further down the road, only to continually bring it back. I think there's something more than that that's going on here. And we owe it to our constituents to move this forward. We're hearing from people who are some, are looking towards their funding and wanting to know what our outcomes are. And I'm not sure why we continue to hold this up. As I said, a corporation council has made it extremely clear exactly what needs to happen, what can and cannot happen. So discussing it further will not change anything. So I don't understand why it's being.
Ms. Porterfield, the email was very clear in terms of us not being compliant with what we intend to do. So I'm not sure we need to discuss that further with the Corporation Council. And that would be the appropriate place to be, would be our next committee meeting.
But we cannot come and go but we can't come into compliance because what would needed to be done wasn't done, and there's no way to get it done.
And that's what I'm trying to say. We need to discuss at committee level and to address that. And if we need to, what we need to do, then we'll address it and move forward. And if that's the reason why it's being told.
No, I know. I don't know because it's clear that we cannot have another public meeting. We should have, we didn't have. So therefore, that change is trying to be made. All the necessary steps were not taken. Only necessary steps that were taken is the one that was submitted on the things that were submitted to HUD already, which is what we really should be voting on at this point.
Which were done illegally, I might add. The mayor and Kirsten Doty had no right to submit that to HUD because it was not approved by the Schenectady City Council. So what the mayor and Department of Development did by submitting that to HUD oversaw the City Council's responsibility of approving that budget and that plan.
There's no requirement that I submit it to the council before I submit it to HUD.
Mr. President, if I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Spalding.
Thank you. Again, without getting into the nuts and bolts of, the discussion here related to what should have been done or what was done, procedurally, in terms of removing an item for consideration, with all due respect to what the president was intending to do, it would be a motion to table, a second, and a vote for procedural purposes.
Mr. President?
Go ahead, Mr. Coulter.
And Ms. Brazo, not to put you on the spot, but was there anything you can add to this conversation yet, pro or against? I mean, you were president prior to myself, and I know we have pulled items off the agenda. And look, I will go whatever the majority wants to do here. I just think this is the first time I've ever heard of this, that we've had to do a motion to table it. And again, for this to being brought up at 5:35 in the evening, Mr. Colden, is absolutely outrageous because you knew where we were going with this. And remember, as Corporation Council, you represent both the mayor's office and the city council, not just the mayor's office.
You're absolutely right. And I didn't know this was being pulled until the moment that Mr. Mudavaryan said it was being pulled.
Yeah, well, Mr. Colden, you know that you had sent an email out with those guidelines or those recommendations. What would you have expected us to do? We always act based on your recommendation. Well, and that's why I am asking that these be pulled, because based on your...
Mr. President.
Go ahead, Ms. Ferrazzo.
Mr. Kosher asked for my input. I think it's always wise to follow the lead of the Corporation Council. And I think that the majority of the council is in support of passing the CDBG as it was submitted to HUD. And to be perfectly honest with you, even if you do table it and win this argument, the majority of the council can amend during privilege of the floor and pass this through anyway. So, one way or another, the majority of the council supports that this get voted on. So I would recommend that we leave it on the agenda and let it go through its process and have a good democratic process in which the majority of the council supports one thing and two people support another thing. So that is my 2 cents because it was asked of me. Whoever's typing, can you mute, please?
Okay, so we'll have those back on, and I will call for item number 4. If the clerk can please read.
Item number 4 for final consideration, a resolution adopting the 2020-2021 HUD Annual Action Plan.
Ask for a roll call on this, please.
Pardon me?
I would like a roll call on this, please.
Okay. Item number 5, the clerk can please read.
Item number 5 for final consideration, a resolution adopting the 2020-2024 HUD Consolidated Plan.
I'd like a roll call on this, please, also.
Item number 6, if the clerk can please read.
Item number 6 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 87 Willow Avenue.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 7, the clerk can please read.
Item number 7 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 220 Abbotsford Road.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 8, if the clerk can please read.
Item number 8 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 310 Schenectady Street.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 9, if the clerk can please read.
Item number 9 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 417 2nd Street.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 10, if the clerk can please read.
Item number 10 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 792 Francis Street.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 11, if the clerk can please read.
Item number 11 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1043 Helderberg Avenue.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 12, the clerk can please read.
Item number 12 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1279 Parkwood Avenue.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 13, the clerk can please read.
Item number 13 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1322 3rd Avenue.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 14, the clerk can please read.
Item number 14 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1859 State Street.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 15, if the clerk can please read.
Item number 15 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 2028 State Street.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 16, if the clerk can read, please read.
Item number 16 for original consideration, a resolution authorizing the sale of 2155 Broadway.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. If there is nothing more to come before the City Council caucus, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you. I would like to call the City Council meeting to order for Monday, September the 14th, 2020, to order. I would like to call on Mr. Palomini for a prayer invocation.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this wonderful day. We thank you for the opportunity to meet. We ask that you provide us guidance and wisdom, that we do what is in the best interest of our residents, that everything that we do tonight is pleasing to you. We ask you to protect our city and our city workers, in particular our police and fire department, as well as those who work in the medical industry, keep them safe from the virus. Let the virus please come to an end soon with a vaccine that is safe and effective. And we ask all this in your precious name. Amen.
Thank you. I would like to call on Ms. Patrick to lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Michael, can you please complete the roll call?
Mr. Kosher,
Here.
Ms. Porterfield,
Here.
Zaluski Walzunas, Ms. Zaluski Walzunas,
She had to step away.
Ms. Perazzo,
Present.
Ms. Patrick,
Here,
Mr. Palomini,
Here.
Mr. Muthuvaran.
Present.
Thank you.
We have one public hearing this evening regarding flat rate permit fees for purchases of city-owned houses. Since we're meeting virtually, we continue to ask residents or concerned residents to submit your comments to the city clerk for it to be included in the minutes. They have approval for the minutes for August 24th, 2020.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Communication and petitions from the city clerk.
Communications presented to the City Council for Monday, September 14th, 2020. The Mayor, a list of appointments dated September 14th, 2020. Under General, an email from Sophia Masford requesting City Council adopt a budget that redirects funds away from the police department and towards housing, jobs, youth program, restorative justice, and mental health workers to help with the community. An email from PD Vorist requesting the page in the agenda packet be numbered and comments on the analysis of impediments to fair housing. An email from Gracie Frash requesting the council adopt a budget that redirects funds away from the department and towards housing, jobs, youth program, restorative justice, and mental health workers to help the community. An email from Madeline Thorne, Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity, requesting support for full funding under the 2020 Annual Action Plan application. An email from Elizabeth Zadan, founder of Bright Hope Center Incorporated, asking for support on the application they've submitted for funds to use toward their educational not-for-profit program. Emails from Eleanor Pepper. The first email had a link to the New York Civil Liberties Union regarding legislation for the protection of tenants that call police for help, and another link to a report done by the Empire Justice Center regarding the impact on victims of domestic violence. The second email stating she had difficulty logging onto the website, her displeasure with the funds for a farmer training program through Schenectady Urban Farms have been cut, and she reiterated her support for the All of Us 13 demands to end police brutality. An email from Chad Putman stating his displeasure on the lack of public participation at the city council meetings, the public not being allowed to log on to the WebEx meetings, and there not being enough room on the new online comment form. He also invited everyone, including the mayor and city council members, to participate in the Schenectady Speak Out that was held yesterday, September 13th at 5:30 at City Hall. Under petitions, there were none.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor related to legislative order. Again, since we are meeting virtually, we continue to ask that you submit your comments to the city clerk for it to be included in the minutes. Approval of the legislative consent agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
We have 2 items for roll call this evening. Item number 4, if the clerk can please read.
Item number 4 for final consideration, a resolution adopting the 2020-2021 HUD Annual Action Plan.
Mr.
May I have a motion?
President,
Yes.
I have an amendment that I'd like to propose, please, and I can share it on my on the screen if I can, please.
Go ahead.
Yep. So I would like to make a motion to amend the annual action plan so that it reflects the plan submitted to HUD by the city of Schenectady. In addition, I would like to make an amendment that authorizes the contract between the city of Schenectady and the Community Loan Fund for small business grants and technical assistance.
Can somebody expand that? Can you expand that? I cannot read that. Can somebody expand that? Zoom in, zoom out. Let's see what I got here.
Mr. Rasso, you may want to zoom in, please. Zoom out.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time with my view here. It went weird on me.
This is what's in the packet though, right?
No, this is a resolution that reflects the amendments
Oh, okay.
that I just put forward, but I can't get back to my original screen.
This is basically just to go back to the original CDBG and to, oops,
I'm trying to do it.
went in, I was reading it, and to move the CARES money.
Right. I'd be happy to read it. Unfortunately, I can't get back to my proper
Before
screen.
you go ahead, Mr. Rasso, so this is the original CDBG resolution, and then we are also adding the resolution from last committee meeting onto this also. So this is not the original CDBG.
This is the amendment to the item number 4 on the agenda is that we amend the resolution to go back to so that the annual action plan reflects the same plan submitted to HUD by the city of Schenectady. In addition, I'm asking that we amend item number 4 to include authorization of the contract between the city of Schenectady and the Community Loan Fund for the small business grants and technical assistance.
Isn't that 2 separate items? It has to do with the original CDBG funding plus the CARES Act, 2 different parts. Why are we incorporating it together?
This is an amendment of item number 4 to include both things, as advised by the law department. Mr. Mutavern, if you call for a second, please, I would appreciate it.
Well,
Mr. Holden, can you shed some legal interpretation on this?
I can. So obviously, Ms.
Before we
Peraza,
start to discuss it.
Ms.
We need a
Peraza,
second first in order to discuss it.
I'll second that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, nay on my part.
We haven't voted yet, Ed.
Wait,
All right.
isn't this,
So
are
we
we
just said all in favor.
doing a discussion first?
Yes, you discussed, correct, I'm sorry. You are right. Who wants to go first? Mr. Or who's the chair of this? Mr. Motivaren?
Go ahead, Mr. Colden, can you please?
yes, I received a request to, regarding the process for amending the resolution as provided in number 4, to reflect what Ms. Peraza just presented, which she obviously just did. The process is a two-step process. One to move to adopt, or excuse me, one is move to amend the resolution as provided by Ms. Peraza to the City Council. That's the first part. The second step would be a motion to adopt this resolution. And is there a specific question, Mr. Motivaren, that you'd like me to address?
Well, the question I ask is that we are adding the CARES Act into the CDBG.
That's correct.
Mr. Motivaren, please.
ahead.
Mr. Colden, Ms. Peraza cannot make a motion on this because she's not a member of the Finance Committee. Has to come from that committee and not from someone. Don't shake your head, because I am correct on this. This was tabled from that finance chair, and only the committee can make this motion, which has to be approved by the entire board.
It's,
It wasn't tabled, and
It
I can
certainly
make an
was. We pulled-
amendment to anything
It's
on the
not moved.
agenda that I want.
Oh, you cannot, ma'am. Not on this, not on the CARES.
Not, Mr. Colden, can you address that? Because this is something that we tabled.
yes, well, it's correct that you did table that. Excuse me, you didn't table it. It didn't go through committee. Ms. Peraza is doing something different in that she's amending a resolution, making a motion to amend a resolution before the council. The fact that it does include language, that reflects the community loan fund contract, that doesn't obviously prevent the council from, voting it down to amend. But Ms. Peraza has the ability to make the motion that she's making now to amend the resolution.
I totally disagree with the Corporation Council's ruling on this. Absolutely not. She can make the motion for CDBG, but cannot make the motion concerning the CARES Act.
I can make the motion here, or I can make the motion during general privilege of the floor.
No, you can't, ma'am. You have to be a committee member. You have to be a
I'm
member
sorry, you're
of that
incorrect.
committee.
Exposure.
Well, I'll look it up right now. How's that for everybody's?
I worked with Mr. Colden and Mr. Commodore today to look through both ways, and both ways are the way to do it.
Specifically, Mr. Kosher, it has to do with section 28-21C of the city code. If a proposed legislative enactment should fail to obtain approval of the council committee to which it has been referred, it may be placed upon the agenda at the next or any subsequent city council meeting, only if the request has at least one co-sponsor in addition to the original proposer. That is only if it's not an amendment to a resolution before the council. So under privilege of the floor, for any city matter, Ms. Peraza is correct in that she could potentially bring it at that point, at that juncture of the meeting.
Well, I disagree with the ruling of the chair, of the Corporation Council, so. All right, anyway, we're gonna move on, obviously. Do what you folks want to move.
Any more discussion? Or can you please complete the roll?
Mr. Kosher,
I am absolutely voting no in this. We have taken numerous weeks on going through this CDBG process and discussing amendments and changes. And again, as I mentioned earlier, first of all, the mayor and the Department of Development erred on the side of submitting this plan as approved supposedly to HUD. And I'm sure that myself and Council President will make that known to HUD that the council did not make approval. And we also had several questions regarding the CARES Act. Not so much who was running it, but to make sure where was the information given to all the minority contractors? Why wasn't Ron Gardner invited to that meeting last week? Our affirmative action officer, whose programs really earmarked what we were talking about. Mr. Gardner should have had a role in this. The Gazette should have been notified. It should have been publicly advertised. And again, I didn't see any information that we requested of that Department of Development regarding how this was done. The CARES Act is very important, again, to our minority businesses, small businesses. We're not going to argue that. It's not even an arguable point. But I want to make sure that all our minority-owned businesses are aware of this program and these funds. And I saw no evidence of that. I did not see Mr. Gardner involved with this. And again, I'm very disappointed that Ms. Perazo decided to include this into this resolution here, this amendment. Again, I would have been okay with just the CDBG portion. But I think if we're going to be doing this every time we disagree, if we want to table something, then you know what, we'll start making amendments every other week. And again, very disappointed at Corporation Council as well, not notifying the council president of what was happening here. Obviously behind the scenes, let's use that word, behind the scenes, people were meeting without even notifying our council president. And I'm very disappointed in that. And again, I'll be voting no.
Thank you. Ms. Porterfield?
I will be voting yes on this. We've had numerous discussions, as Mr. Kosher has said, about CDBG. And we really, it's been clear that before we can make any amendments, which we will have the ability to do once it's been approved by HUD. And also, additionally, in regards to Mr. Gardner being a part of this, it was stated at the last meeting that this actually was submitted by Mr. Gardner. And the fact that Mr. Gardner was not on the meeting last week, that is actually the second time that has happened in recent history. And I raised the same issue, and what our council president said is, and I asked for a letter from Mr. Gardner, and so that was received. And if there was also that concern when we were discussing that, that could have been brought forward at that time, and then Mr. Gardner could have submitted an email, as he did when I brought up the issue, and say he's fully in support, or an email saying otherwise. But that issue was not brought up until we come here today in order to amend this. I hate to keep repeating this, but we are not saying that those businesses which are on the list for the money that the community loan fund will be, we're asking community loan fund to distribute, are exactly those businesses that will receive the money. They still have to go through the process of applying for the funds and meeting all the criteria that's going to be set forth. That was simply a group that the survey was given to. And once the money is approved, which has to happen first, we will then advertise the program to all small businesses that meet the criteria, one of which being you must be under 50 employees. So the advertisement will happen, but we can't advertise a program that's not in place. In order to put the program in place, we have to first vote to approve the funding, which is what we're doing tonight. So once again, we have to move forward with our businesses who are waiting, with those organizations that are looking forward to our CDBG funding. If there is a need to amend it, we can look at that once it's been approved. And that's it can't happen any other way, which has been shown by the email that we received from Corporation Council. And we've had these discussions actually prior to this. So at this juncture, I definitely vote yes, so we can move forward. If amendments are needed, we can bring it back to amend after we get approval through HUD. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Zalewski-Walzunas.
She's absent.
Okay. Ms. Perazo?
Yes. I honestly don't even know where to start on this. First of all, the reason we got here is because part of the council went behind closed doors and made changes to CDBG without discussing it with the other part of the council to get what they wanted out of the budget, and put forward this cacophony of numbers that no one could possibly understand, which the city stepped in and tried to get around because the proper procedures weren't followed. All right. So then the mayor submitted the original budget to HUD because he does have the right to do that. And what we're actually doing tonight is we're voting to approve it. So whether you want to go to HUD or not go to HUD about the fact that the mayor submitted it without approval, we're approving it right now. That's number one. So all the antics around this is just mind blowing to me. Mind blowing. Never have seen this operate like this. And because a couple of people didn't get what they wanted, it became this big thing. So that's that. The other thing is, as far as me putting this on as an amendment, what I'm doing is exercising a healthy democratic process. Because when we sat in that committee meeting last week, 4 of the council members were in support of this program, and 1 on the committee refused to vote it out of committee. So when the majority of the council feels strongly, there's a proper procedure in place to be able to pass that because the majority believes in it. So that's just healthy democratic process, because one person wouldn't recognize the fact that the rest of the council supported it and that we should go forward. So that's the checks and balances of good democracy, and that there's a way around one person controlling it. So there's that. And then finally, to talk about antics from a man who worked so hard to usurp my budget process a couple of years ago, behind closed doors, behind the scenes, with every manipulative step you could possibly take, I don't even hear your words. They mean nothing to me. I vote yes.
Thank you. Ms. Patrick?
I'm going to vote yes as well. I do want to say that I hope that next year, again, this was my first time going through this process, but I do hope that we're able to work more closely with the development department right from the start on the CDBG. I think it would be useful to, have a committee perhaps that's kind of looking over all these applications. And then, last week I definitely would have moved the CARES Act forward. So I am going to vote yes on both parts, knowing that I'm hoping things will change on the CDBG process next year. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Palomini?
In regards to the CARES Act money, I supported this on Monday night anyway, and I believe it's the correct move to move forward with this. I think Ms. Perazzo and Ms. Porterfield covered it pretty well, so I won't rehash what was in that. In regards to CDBG, honestly, this is a very broken process. And I mean, we really need to have a change with how we approach this. I would hope and suggest in the future that at least one member of the council be part of the discussion so they can keep the rest of the council abreast of what's being done so that we can avoid anything like this in the future. It's really should not have gone this way, and I will certainly take my share of responsibility, but we need to move forward this, make sure that the organizations get the money that they deserve and need to help the community. And whether we wait 2 weeks or do it now, I will be voting yes.
Thank you. Mr. Mutaverin?
Yes, thank you. I am going to be reserving my comments. I mean, it's unfortunate that we are here at this point in time, and reserving my comments for future discussion, and I vote no.
Okay, thank you. That's 4 ayes and 2 noes.
The item is passed. Ms. Perazzo, are you going to share anything else so I can take back my screen and continue?
I'll stop sharing right now.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Manu-Farron,
Yes, sir.
for the process of, or for the purpose of process, that first vote just now, I just want to be certain, that first vote right there was the motion to amend the resolution. There has not yet been a motion to adopt the resolution as amended.
Yeah, I make a motion to adopt the resolution as amended.
I'll second it.
That.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Do we need a
Mr.
roll
Kosher.
call on that?
I'll take the
Ms.
roll.
Michael, just for the sake of us meeting virtually, can we do a roll call motion, please?
Mr. Crozier,
I'm going to vote no again.
Ms. Butterfield,
Aye.
Ms. Perazzo,
Aye.
Ms. Patrick,
Yes.
Mr. Palomini,
Yes.
Mr. Mutavaran.
No.
Okay, 4 ayes, 2 noes.
The item is passed, 4-2, 1 absent. Item number 5. If the clerk can please read.
Item number 5 for final consideration, a resolution adopting the 2020-2024 HUD Consolidated Plan.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Motivaren, please.
Go ahead, Mr. Kosher.
Yeah, just to actually taking another hat here to commend this consolidated plan. The folks who put this together, I think, did a very, very good job. There's some very interesting reading in there, some statistics and numbers that we can be proud of, and yet at the same time, some very disturbing numbers regarding mostly our school district and the funding of it and lack of funding, if you will. We are passing that support of for the Schenectady School District with funding. But again, I really encourage folks who are listening or watching here to really take a look at that report. It's on the city website. It's quite extensive, and those folks who actually do grants, this is an excellent, excellent piece of material to have. So again, I will commend, believe it or not, the Department of Development for working on this, and they did a very fine job on it. So thank you.
Any other discussion? Ms. Michael, can you please complete the roll?
Yes, Mr. Crozier,
Yes.
Butterfield,
Aye.
Ms. Perazzo,
Aye.
Ms. Patrick,
Aye.
Mr. Palomini,
Yes.
Mr. Mutavaran.
Yes. The motion is passed, 6 yes, 1 absent. Thank you. Privilege of the floor regarding general city business. Again, since we are meeting virtually, I encourage residents to continue to submit your comments to our city clerk for it to be included in the minutes. Miscellaneous business from my colleagues. Please unmute yourselves.
Mr. Mudavaren?
Oh, please go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I attended the Speak Out, I guess is what you call it, on City Hall steps that was put together by all of us, as did Ms. Patrick. And so there were numerous comments that that folks had to say, some of which we've received in writing. And I think the biggest takeaway for me was that folks would like to be able to have public comment and actually make comment. So I believe that's something we should try to take into consideration, and still limit to the 3 minutes. I understand that we're talking about going back into chambers, and we have to work through that. I don't know how well that's going to work out in the next couple of weeks, but I think that I feel we definitely need to consider being able for people to actually make public comment, and for us to control that, just the same way that we do when they're in chambers with the 3 minutes, et cetera. In the event that we don't go back into chambers and people are not able to show up. So we really should have a plan moving forward how we address that, because we don't know how long this is going to be before we can actually go back. I know there are plans underway, but we should take into consideration what we will do if we're not able to go back into chambers, and what we will do once we are able to go in, and how we limit people coming into the chambers, et cetera. So I just wanted to bring that forward, that there were many comments, but that probably was one of the major takeaways for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Go ahead, Ms. Patrick.
Well, I also wanted to comment about yesterday's meeting. I appreciated that the invitation to be able to go and listen to the folks that spoke. I think also that, as Ms. Porterfield said, we had received many of the comments. I think there were just a couple of newer comments that were made yesterday, but otherwise we have been reading the emails that have come from folks, not out loud at these meetings, but as we have been getting them. So I appreciated the invitation for that yesterday. I also want to commend the voter registration work and the backpack program that the city was working with other agencies with, and really, again, stress that importance of all of us trying to work to get people registered and voting this year, any year. And I appreciated the work that my fellow council members were doing, stuffing those backpacks last week as well. So I appreciated that. And then again, I'm glad that we made this resolution this evening in support of our school district. I think right now that's probably one of the most serious issues that we all have to be trying to help figure out in terms of the education of our youth. My heart goes out to those that lost their positions. My heart goes out to the school board for, I know, what was probably kind of devastating decisions for them to be thinking about. But most importantly, I'm worried about our children and our teens, and the longer term repercussions of what's going to happen if we, if we cannot get them the educations that they need. So I appreciate that you guys put that resolution forward as well. Thank you.
Any other of my colleagues?
Mr. Mudavaren, I know that I spoke once, so if there's no one else has anything, I did forget something. I forgot to mention that folks should really complete the census. The deadline is fast approaching. Today is the 14th, and the deadline is the 30th of September, and our numbers were not where they should be. So we really need to work hard to make sure that we encourage everyone to complete the census. If the enumerator comes to visit you, please do it with them. If you haven't done it, please go online, use your phone, mail it in, please just get it done. It's important to the funding that comes into our community. So that can't be stressed enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was also going to bring up what Councilmember Porterfield just talked about with the census. Again, we all have to reach out, friends, neighbors, coworkers, anybody, make sure people are filling out the census form. can be done manually, can be done online. It is extremely important. And again, we have areas within the community where our participation is low and nowhere near what we'd like it to be or want it to be. I just want to be clear that Ron Gardner really crafted that community loan fund program so that he didn't happen to be at the meeting, but it was his product, led the outreach on that survey, trying to identify businesses, trying to structure something that would provide significant help and at the same time help the largest number of entities within the community. I thank the council for moving forward tonight on the CDBG. We're all under different levels of stress, but again, the program that we have in place, and the process the council has adopted and that HUD requires, there's a lot of community input up front, looking for different goals and objectives, who can best serve those. And it is a flawed process where we can go out, we do all this outreach, organizations submit very detailed applications. And then at the very end, to have them just arbitrarily changed by members of the city council without clear input or reasoning as to why those proposed changes are being made really undermines the whole system. And I look forward to Will, as we look to implement this, again, as I've told you, we'll start next cycle, bring forward the actual contracts with the agencies that have submitted proposals. Again, giving them a chance to re-emphasize or re-explain the services that they're looking to provide. It's something that I believe is in the best interest of the city as a whole. And while we've had some bumps in the road, I think the council should sit back, and the process really works. The information is available throughout the entire process. It's only when you try and make the changes at the very end that it creates this. And be clear again, it's well within my authority. Other mayors across the state of New York do it, across the country, submit the plan. It does not require city council approval. It's no different than anything else that we engage in for contracts. When we award a contract, I have to go back to the city council to get approval, in which we're going to do on those programs and agencies that are working with us on CDBG. So there's a lot of kind of disinformation that's going around. I enjoy all of you, consider all of you my friends, colleagues, where our interests are the city as a whole, and want us to kind of put these bumps in the road aside so that we can go forward and make everyone look well. And so I thank you for the opportunity to address the council tonight, Mr. President. Wish everyone well, and I want everyone to stay safe.
Thank you. I know I appreciate those words, but you know, over the years we have been hearing the same words from you, and the council are being highlighted by you and your staff. We don't get the opportunity, the council, to participate in these things, and you continue to echo those words, but you need to put word actions and have your staff and you. I mean, I've sent you emails over and over on things that the council are looking for. Over the last several weeks, you have failed to respond to my email, to acknowledge it or to assign it to a staff so that they can look at it. We've asked you to answer questions in regards to item on the agenda. You continue to fail to respond to me, and then you echo those words. I mean, it's unfortunate that you're saying that in public, but behind closed doors, you're not doing anything of those words. So you know what, it's good. Maybe, you know, you said it in public here now that we can move forward. You can able to acknowledge people's emails, people's concerns, and address it with you or your staff, and let's move forward and work together. Working together works only for you. So that's what the unfortunate of this council are going through now. With regards to public comments, I mean, I know last week we discussed it at the committee meeting, and we now have an online format where residents can submit their comments. We also encourage people to email or to make phone calls to us, and we can document that. And talking about email in terms of us resuming back in-person meeting. I sent an email, and I'm going to go back to this. I sent an email to the mayor earlier this week with regards to us starting discussion on providing dates from him so that we can meet to discuss what is needed in the chamber for us to resume in-person meeting. To date, no response, no acknowledgement, and I'm still waiting. The council is ready to meet in person back in Chambers and City Hall. But we need to put safety protocol in place to protect my colleagues, protect the public and the staff. But when we're not getting acknowledgement and able to move forward with these things, it's making it difficult for the council. And the mayor seems to want to work with the council on us. So I'm going to ask Mr. Mayor, if you can please respond to my email. I'm ready to meet at any given time with myself, my colleagues, so that we can put these safety protocol in place. And once that is completed, we will resume in-person meeting. And I hope that you can reach out to me and my colleagues and we can start the discussion.
Mr. President, what I need from you is a date that you want to meet, and we'll put the precautions and protocols in place. We don't have to have a meeting. I have the professional staff. We have the experience and the training to do it. You tell me what day you want to meet. We'll put it in place and have it set up.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, sir.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Stay well.
Good night.
Bye-bye.